Grab your pen and your notebook. We're going to continue our journey of learning Hebrew. Today we're going to look at the letter Ayin. And like usual, we're going to look at a 2,000-year-old plus version of the Ayin as well as a 1,000-year-old version. And then my real simple block script version. And we'll learn some words that have the letter Ayin in it. So let's jump in. Shalom, welcome to Rob on the Rock. I'm Rob Van Hoff, and for this edition of Scribe School, we're looking at the letter Ayin. And I'm going to show it to you here in our 10th century manuscript called the Washington Pentateuch. And it looks like a letter Y, if you think in terms of English letters. And here it is. See this? If you think of it in terms of a letter Y, it might be more readily identifiable to you. See this letter? It's got two little heads. The one on the right sweeps down to the left, and then there's a vertical line. And we'll see another one here again, the same word, Elyon. See that letter? That's a letter Ayin. And how we write it, it's going to be very similar to the letter Y. We're going to start at the upper part of the letter, the upper right, go down to the left, and then put a little line on the left coming down slightly to the right. Now again, when I'm writing quickly, I can write pretty sloppily. But that's our Ayin right there. So you want to practice that. Notice how the little tail on the lower left goes below the line. That's the way I do it anyway. So, for example, this word that we're looking at here in the Washington Pentateuch from Genesis 14 is Elyon, Elyon. So it's Ayin. So we know all the letters now. Ayin, Lamed, Yod, Vav, and then a Nun Sofit. Elyon. Let's see if I can make a big Elyon. We'll make it in purple. Let's make a bigger letters here. Oops. Yeah, like that. Elyon. I've got my Nun Sofit here. I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit so you can see that. Elyon. And the Elyon is built off this preposition al, meaning upon or above. And that's Ayin Lamed. And we'll see that a lot. Ayin Lamed. So if we write our alphabet here, let's do that. There's our Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, I have to squeeze my Lamed in there, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin. There's our Ayin. And of course, with our final forms, we have our Kaf Sofit, our Mem Sofit, our Nun Sofit. There we go. There's our Aleph Bet so far. And today, of course, we're looking at this letter, the letter Ayin. Okay, let's go and look at some even older scribal forms of the Ayin. Here we go back to our famous great Isaiah scroll. It says, Chazon Yeshayahu ben Amoz, the vision of Isaiah ben Amoz. And do you see the little Y? It looks like a Y. The scribe forgot to write the Ayin, and he went back and added it. So he spelled Isaiah's name incorrectly. He spelled it Yod, Shin, Yod, Hey, and then it looks like there's a Vav here. And then for Yeshayahu, but the Ayin, he had to go back and write above. So let's see if I can replicate that with my dry erase board here, so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So we have Yod. Oops, I better make that on the screen so you can see it. Yod, Shin, Yod, He, Vav. And then he thought, oh, snap, I forgot the Ayin. So he wrote it right above like that. So the spelling should be Yod, Shin, Ayin, Yod, He, Vav. And the Vav at the end is not always there. Sometimes it's Yeshayahu, and sometimes it's Yeshia, Isaiah. But in any case, the Ayin is essential to the name. But you can see that little Y right there. Another place we'll see it is like where we saw last week with the Samek, Chamo Avus Ba'alav. So the donkey knows the manger of his master. But then it says, Israel lo yada. Israel lo yada. So you can see the word Israel. We haven't learned the scene yet, but that's okay. Lamed, and then lo, lamed, vav, aleph. That's lo, not yada. Israel does not know. And right here you see Yod, Dalet, Ayin. And if I try to do the same thing here, let's see if I can write that. You can see it. Lo yada. It's Yod. I'm going to try to use his script. Dalet, and then Ayin. Yod, Dalet, Ayin. And I would write that in more block script like this. Lo yada. Israel does not know. Israel does not know the Lord. That's what Israel doesn't understand. And that's, of course, the beginning of the chazon, of the visions that Isaiah prophecies. Now let's go back to our Washington Pentateuch just to look one more time. El Elyon, El Elyon. Now we can spell God Most High, often how that's translated. Aleph Lamed is El, that means that's translated as Mighty One or God, short for Elohim. Ayin, then Lamed, Yod, Vav, and Nun Sofit. Yon, Elyon, El Elyon. Here's another one up here with the real tall. This says Kohen LeEl Elyon. Kohen, well, who's the Kohen LeEl Elyon? Kohen is the word for priest, so it's Kaf. We've known Kaf already. Hey, that's a H sound. Nun Sofit. And the vowel, this little dot, which we'll learn later, is an O. Kohen. It's a priest, a Kohen. Le is a preposition, the lamed meaning to or for or belonging to, of. So it's Kohen Le El Elyon, a priest of God Most High. El Elyon. So if you've been following along with our alphabet, you should be able to recognize each of these letters. Kaf, He, Nun Sofit, Kohen. Le, El, so it's Lamed, Aleph, Lamed. Le El, he's a priest to or of El. Ayin, Lamed, Yod, Vav, Nun Sofit, Elyon. Kohen Le El Elyon. And if we were to practice writing that, which we can do, let me erase, I'll just move this over here and we'll get rid of this stuff up here. So Kohen, again, Kaf, He, Nun. That's our word Kohen. This is right out of Genesis 14, as we saw. Lamed, Aleph Lamed, that's Le'el for El, and then Elyon. Kohen Le'el Elyon. I think I'll do a better job if I try to write it all on the same line. Let's try that. Kohen Le'el Elyon. There you go. So our ayin, if I get a different color here, that's our ayin right there. Let's make a giant ayin. There it is, a giant ayin. Looks like a letter Y, doesn't it? And one more time, we'll write the name Isaiah. Now that shin we haven't learned yet, but Yeshayahu. Shin we'll learn. It's also in the name, of course, Yeshua. Yod, Shin, Vav, Ayin. It's the last letter here in the name Yeshua. Make that nice and big. So there you go. We've learned another letter, the letter Ayin. Practice, practice, practice. Fill that notebook full of Hebrew letters. Don't get tired of writing Hebrew letters. Write them 10 times each. Write the alphabet as many times each as you can. You want to be able to recognize on sight. You want to be able to produce it from memory. And as we build, we're going to learn all the sounds they make and how we can learn to read the words that the Masoretes preserved with the vowel signs that they preserved as well. Keep at it, and you will build skill that will be beneficial to you. You'll never regret learning this information, so stick with it. Shalom.